Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Double Trouble Wednesday. And yes, it is Double Trouble today with our lovely Jessie. So lots to look forward to there. We're doing the part two of the Karoo Decode this week. So wow, super interesting seeing what's happening in this neck of the woods. And then part two, we'll be doing a Q&A. So get your questions ready, everybody, and then we can pop them on with Jessie in part two as well. And we will be doing a membership Q&A on the 3rd of October. So our beautiful members, get your questions ready for membership. There's obviously, it's more like intimate there, so you get to spend more one-on-one time with Jessie as well, which is lovely. 3rd of October, Friday, 3rd of October. Diarize. Okay. And today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday, Dr. Dennis. Friday, again, Holly Baglio. I was meant to do a show with a new guest on Tuesday, Anna. Unfortunately, my internet was down, but I'm back again. And so I will be doing interviews, more shows coming up next week as well. So please just watch the schedule. And hello, everybody. Nice to see you all in the chat. Really, really good to see you guys again. Happy spring. Happy spring to all our staffers. I think it's a wonderful time to be having spring. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, everybody, without any further ado, Madame, how are you?
Hello, hello. Good, good. Yeah, it's so interesting. Some are getting spring and we are headed into fall here in the United States. So
I'm so
just so
happy to have
strange.
the sun. No,
I
I'm
bet you
very happy
are.
to have the sun back. Oh yeah, you know me. I'm a sun. I'm a sun bunny.
Always
Lovely.
such beautiful weather out there, I'm sure. Except for when
Well,
it's freezing cold.
one day you got to come visit. We were just saying,
Right?
like, one
I
day. I
do.
know we will do it.
Yeah.
We will do it. We
We
will
have to
do
have
it.
a event out there or something, like that would be so fun.
More and more people are actually speaking about it, and it's something that's happening in my mind more and more. So yeah, I'm sure that that time is getting close. It's
Right?
definitely happening in my mind, and I'm kind of thinking already, where can we do it? Shall it be here? Shall it be in Namibia? Maybe both.
Mm,
Let's see,
right?
guys. Let's see. But definitely South Africa or sub-Saharan Southern Africa is definitely calling. So it would be amazing to have you
Right?
saving my phone miles. Yes, Lisa D. I definitely know your week as well. So that's
Right?
amazing. Yes, you have some lovely announcements. And also, what I wanted to mention is that we've got a book club coming up and a new that's for the
Yes.
Patreons. And that will be
Right?
on, of course, the first Sunday. Is it the first Sunday or the last Sunday? I always forget. I'm so bad.
It's the
The first
first.
Sunday.
Yeah.
First Sunday. Yeah. So that'll be, I think, the fifth for 5th of October, first Sunday in October. Maybe
Yeah.
you want to tell us about the book that we're going to be.
Right?
Um,
It's gonna be it'll be online, so we're gonna need the scripture and then we're gonna get into some of the um books that were not included in the Bible. So we'll start with the book of Daniel. It's considered a prophetic, a revelation book. That book, is very, um, we'll say, there's a lot of foresight about end time things in that book. But the book of Daniel has supposedly two extra books where you have the book of Daniel 2, Bel and the Dragon, and even a third book to Daniel. Neither the second or the third are in scripture. So we're gonna read those, and then we'll get into discussions about them, why they weren't included, And there is a very particular reason why they were not included. So it's going to be a great discussion and kind of eye-opening. They're very interesting books, but we'll probably have them. We'll see if we can share a screen and have them online.
Fantastic.
But yeah,
So that's coming up on
October
first Sunday
5th.
in October, which I think is the 5th.
Yeah, it is.
And yeah, and we're going to be talking about the Book of Daniel. So one of the
Yeah.
would it be considered one of the missing books? Would you call it a missing book or the excluded books?
Daniel's in the Bible, but no,
Yeah,
the missing books are more your apocrypha. Um,
right.
but yeah, they've just been kind of nicely excluded. So,
Okay, so the excluded book of Daniel
right.
is what we will
Two
then be
books.
looking into.
Yeah.
Yeah, books, yes.
Yeah.
On the 5th of October. So join the Aquarius Rising Patreon and come and hang out with us on the first Sunday of every month where we look into these amazing things. Anyway, Jess, without any further ado, enough of my babble. You have some announcements and you can open for us in prayer then.
Yeah. So I'm excited to announce, I'll put it up on my Twitter later today, but um let me just find the little flyer here. I have an event coming up for anybody who can attend. You are welcome to, but we're getting into the holiday seasons here. And I thought it would be just so fun to do an old-fashioned family Christmas extravaganza. So I'm going to be holding that November 7th through 8th in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we're going to do, just things that I remember from my childhood that I loved. We're going to be doing some baking Christmas cookies. Um, that actually goes with it's kind of funny. Um, I'll just say some of my family members were really big in the Christmas cookie baking, and every year we would all wait for to receive the tin of cookies that we would get, and it'd have this variety of different things, and then we'd all fight because there'd only be one or two of each kind, but some of the famous things were the fudge, and my favorite were some of the logs, um, nutmeg logs and stuff, and we get fun stuff like that, but we're gonna you can go to my website, kingdomlivingwithjessie.com, to sign up for that. You can see what we're all gonna do. I'm gonna do some special things, like one of my most favorite things, Shanty. Um, I loved having fun with decorating the tree, but before we would do it, every year I'd buy my kids, I'd go to the thrift stores and buy little Christmas mugs, and then we'd have hot chocolate and apple cider while we were doing it. And it got to the point where my kids were like, "Don't make us any more mugs. We don't want any more mugs, Mom. We have too many." But I'd be like, "But that's what I like to do. I like to go get Christmas mugs." So we're gonna have fun with that. I will have merch and books there for sale and be willing to sign those. And then we're gonna have a really nice, just good old fashioned Christmas dinner. So um,
Wow.
it's a great time to hear the story of Christmas, to sing carols together, and just enjoy, time together as family, because that's really what we are here in these, shows and communities. Really, Shanti, you've made this just a beautiful family and community, and we have that on so many different platforms. And it's a way of just saying, come, let's just be family together.
Absolutely. And I'm definitely going to second that because this community is amazing. And I always sing you guys praises. And it is. You are always there. And We really do appreciate that. And I know, just listening to our survivors and supporting them and just being there and just respecting them enough to hear their story is an amazing, it really is amazing. And we are a family. And I'm very grateful that we are that. And I wanted to just say as well, you guys celebrate Christmas so differently there. I mean, the first time I went overseas was at the end of 1989, and I was in Austria. And it was the first time in 8 years that it snowed there. And it literally snowed the day before I arrived. So it was like just over Christmas at that time. It would snow. It would snow later. But wow, I will never forget that picturesque scene. I mean, Hannes's parents, they lived literally on the hill overlooking the lake that had frozen over. So you can imagine this like typical Austrian postcard scene. I mean, I was blown away.
Right.
So, and I know that that whole hot chocolate glühwein, lots of glühwein on those ski Alps, I can tell you, it was lovely. I became the pro glühwein maker after that. Every excuse to make glühwein, I was there.
Yeah. Yeah, no ski Alps for Miss Jessie, but hey.
No, it was
You
wonderful.
can
It
have
was
a meal.
you see, yeah, we do
Beautiful.
beaches and bikinis in
Yeah.
December. It's
See,
the
that's so
hottest time.
interesting.
Yeah, it's we all on the beach. We are tanned. We're in swimming costumes. The restaurants are packed. We can't handle the tourists over December. You cannot even go to the shop. So we just
Right?
want them gone.
Right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like, leave us
exactly.
alone for a season. Yeah.
Gosh. So I find myself absolutely like panic buying before December so that I don't have to go to the shop. And then I say, okay, guys, a month you here. I'll give you a month. I won't go. You could have the restaurants and the beaches and everything.
Right.
But it's so different. And lots of cocktails and restaurants on the deck, sundowners. Yeah, very different. It's lovely. I
It
mean,
is so,
but
yeah.
it's so amazing.
Yeah, it's so
So
different.
different.
So I encourage people, go to kingdomlivingwithjessie.com, sign up, come join us for those few days. I also see, thank you, Joanne, put up the link to my other website, the Illuminate the Darkness. And as we get into the holiday season, on there, we help support with household rent, different needs, um, those who are champions, those who are veterans, those who are survivors. So, it might be kind of fun. We'll maybe talk off the air, but it'd be fun to kind of help just help some of those individuals during the Christmas season and the holidays. Um,
Yeah,
so I've got some ideas for that. So maybe we could do some fun things with that with our bunch here. But I
I
also
like it.
have coming up October, let me get the date because we were just talking another October date. October 2nd, I've got the third uh, class workshop in my series, Architecture and Altars. The second one in that series will be up on the website hopefully by the end of this week. The third live is October 2nd. So if you haven't got to sign up for that, go sign up for that. Those classes are pretty big and full, but we're getting into the third type of architecture as well as the third type of musical mode as we continue talking about how the architecture tells us, what spiritual gates are there, what song they're tuned to, as well as what altars are there, who's being worshipped at those altars. And then I have another online workshop, Lord Make Us One. And that one we talked about last week. I have a commercial up on the website for that one. So people can watch that and sign up for that workshop as well. So lots of good stuff happening right now. And the Lord Make Us One is about covenant relationships, what those are to look like, um, packed with ideas, packed with uh, others who are going to share from their own experiences. And we're going to have just really great discussion on, how to mature relationships. So, um, let's go ahead and enter into prayer here. I know that's a lot this morning, but we're busy ladies, aren't we, Shanty?
Totally.
All right.
Love it.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for those who come every week to support us, to hear what we have to say, to be a part of the conversation. And we thank you that your word says that wherever two or more of us are gathered, that here you are in the midst of us. We thank you for your presence. We ask for your blessing as we have this conversation today. We ask that you would protect our airwaves, our internet, and our technology, as well as our conversation. And we ask all these things in your powerful name, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you.
Yeah. Listen, what an interesting conversation we had last week as well, right? On the
Yeah.
Karoo. And interesting, what I wanted to say as well, the green and gold is also the colors of the springback. We the springbacks. If you're part of the
Okay.
country's team, you're the springbacks, and
Mm.
that's green and gold. And the mascot is the springback. Yeah,
Well,
actually, and
yeah,
the
we'll get
flowers.
into we're gonna get into all that in the
Amazing.
future, and what that tells us um about the trafficking and stuff and where children are being trafficked too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do
So
you have to
we're gonna
take
oh,
Do I have to
go
take
ahead.
my digestive pill today just so that I can digest what I'm about to hear?
You do. Yeah, so this one's important, we're kind of, if we're looking at an overall structure, as we begin to look at different areas, we know that the system has outlined it in a way where, we can know what's happening underground. It's important to look at the overall picture, which is kind of what we're getting into with the Karoo Decode 1 and then the Karoo Decode 2 here. So we want to look at the area. We're looking at things that, we know are going on. We're looking at the movement, and then we're going to start to kind of, with a magnifying glass, look deeper and closer. Um, and, I kind of teach this method in my coaching series. We have the international coaching where we look at the crests and the coat of arms and the information that we can glean about the underground from those. So that's what we did in the Karoo Decode 1 last week. Um, then, it will get into the land assignment coachings 1 through 4, where we begin to look at the regional area. Um, what churches are there and operating? Where are there sacred grounds identified, for the underground? How is all that working and operating? And we'll look at the schools because that's very important too, and usually connected to all of that. Today we're going to get into, you know, some of those different aspects that come out of the land assignment. So go ahead with the the pictures, the first one there. Let's see what we got. All right. So welcome to the Karoo South Africa Decode Part 2. Um, in this, we've got their coat of arms, which we see on the right-hand side, which we broke down last week. And remember some of the highlights for that. We talked about um, the crown on top, how one of the things that signified was that in that area, they're going to participate in all 8 major rituals, you know, satanic rituals that occur on a yearly basis. We also talked how the phoenix connects to certain calendar systems. You have the ancient calendar systems of the Aztec, the Mayan, and the Incan. So, that they're going to have some of their rituals revolving around those calendars. We talked about how the triangle, um, with all the little triangles in it, on one level that represented those in their night succession, the order of Melchizedek, and this is the lower, like it's connected to their night successions. It's not the overall, the big order of Melchizedek that oversees the system. So it's secondary entry level knights, usually those that are in the succession of the Royal Arc degree rather than your Knights of Malta. Those are going to be connected to your Order of Solomon Knights, which are assigned to different sovereign territories. You can get some other knight groups that they're going to connect to. We talked about the lotus flower, how that um, represents certain cities for them, and as well as ascension and enlightenment. We talked about how the bottom part of that crest, you have the 2 individuals representing the brotherhood, but also their twinning programs. Um, you get the wheat representing, child pornography, and the talons there representing a universal aspect that there is going to be a connection to your galactic federation and different training that's occurring underground. um we also see on the left there another image of some of their crests, and you get different things with that. We're gonna kind of get into some of that today because it's going to kind of overlap. But you get all of their image. It's meant to look natural. It's meant to look like it's from the environment, that it's cultural, but really it's representing something much deeper. And we're gonna kind of look at that today. Go ahead to the next picture there. So, if you're wanting to learn this method, to learn how to look into your areas, I encourage you join my coaching sessions. I'll be having more coming up soon. Right now, as we said earlier, I've got the architecture and altar series going on. But the international, as well as the land assignments 1 through 4, are really where you're going to get a lot of that information. So you can find the signups for that on my website, kingdomlivingwithjessie.com. Go ahead to the next one. So just a review, these are some of the symbols that we're going to find with your South Africa coat of arms as we look at the Karoo area. And it's important whenever you're looking at coat of arms or your regional city sigils, they may change over time, um, based on who's ruling, who's in authority. The coat of arms are meant to display, it's kind of like a airing of their specs. You know, here's who we are, here's our specific breeding, here's the different things we're or positions we're bred to fill in the system, and here's our magical abilities. Here's what we specialize in. That's kind of what your coat of arms are going to include. And so, they can change over time as different people come or go, um, who are in authority in those areas. So it's always good to look back. And, we've talked about uh, what the upper crust, some of the highlights that came out of that. But we see down below that there is an older crest. And that older crest also gives us some very pertinent information. Part of that, we see up where the crown should be, we see a red lion with, a shield. But when we see the lion up top like that, it's representing two things. One, in our Pope history of the Pope Decode series, as well as the Pope Leo, we get into that the symbol of the lion and the books. And so when you see the lions usually on the top, it's representing that one, you have um, the Moravian French line household. Um, and we know that that household is directly connected to vampirism, but it also is going to represent your lion with the book, meaning that, there's going to be ancient territories underground. Whether that's an ancient library, whether that's an area where they've got, mythical creatures that they're holding, they're going to have some specialty things underground in that area. And we kind of still see that carried on in the newest coat of arms. We see that phoenix up in that crown area, looking like, when we take a step back, when we see that triangle lotus flower image, it kind of looks like a phoenix rising out of an egg. So, you know, is there a library, do they have special books, magical books like your um, grimoire, Vernum, or Vernum, that is going to teach, um, how to connect with certain mythical creatures? Do they maybe have that as part of their breeding program under there, where they're breeding certain mythical creatures, and the focus has kind of changed from griffins to now phoenixes? Um, that's possible. So it could represent, libraries, it could represent a- an actual, that they're engaging in the breeding of certain mythical creatures. Um, and that usually means that you're going to have in their training program, that's going to be one of the things they're teaching children, how to connect to those creatures, how to use them as familiars in magic, how to battle with those creatures. So we see that in the older symbol there too, but just, we see the shift in the creatures to something else. Um, with the second one, we also see the kind of the stags, the deer-like creatures on the side. That tells us that that area is going to be filed under the Golden Dawn. Financially, they're going to consider that under the cherubic signs of the West. You get all your domestic animals, like your cow, your ox, your horse, your deer, your camels. All those are going to represent the West. And why is that significant? That's significant because, when you begin to look at why they, use those cherubic signs, one of the things is that they will um, use that to identify which underground military bases in the United States as well as internationally are children being trafficked to, and which military bases are going to oversee their initial programs. So, in the West, in the United States, what massive military dumb base is considered in those Western quadrants? That's going to be your Palisades, California base. That's going to include, a trip to Neverland, and your programming that is connected to stories or themes that come out of your Peter Pan. Uh, you know, could that also include a connection to some of the Disney training programs as they enter into junior high and high school? Absolutely. So there may even be, a direct funneling where children from that area are being hand selected to be trafficked through the Disney areas, both in California as well as they may include Florida in that as well. So that would be uh, part of that. Now, in your Western quadrant, um, internationally, your massive underground training area is going to be in Edinburgh. You're going to have a direct connect to what they consider their sacred city, Avalon, where you're going to get more of the themes of King Arthur, his knights. So those that are trained in the sovereign military who are considered light side or good knights, they're going to have a stint through Avalon there. And now we see as we look at the middle of that, we see kind of four images, which those images are highly connected to different things. One, you have uh, upper left, you have the anchor, and you have more of a Christopher Columbus looking guy there. What is that connected to? That's going to be one of your older symbols for your Priory of Zion. So you could have children that they're teaching directly to work in connection with your Priory of Zion. Uh, you know, th- your priory in that region was significant internationally because those were the individuals right under your board or your council that are going to be connected to the universities, the training, the higher education. But they also oversaw a majority of the shipping and your ports and your shipyards. So, you know, are they training children to take over, the operations of those areas? Absolutely. And, that's why they throw the picture of Christopher Columbus in there. One, they're going to, you know, train children to go out to explore new areas, to expand territories, to recruit, but they're also going to, have control over ports and shipyards, based on what position they're trained for. So that area was high in training for the port operations. Next to that, you see the wild boars or hogs. That imagery is significant in the system because for them, what it represents is salted pork. That's one of the wages of a mason. And when you see the boar, whether the whole boar, you may see it, that imagery simply as a wood barrel. That's sometimes how it will appear in crests. Or you may just see the boar head like you see at Biltmore in their crest. You just see the three boar heads in there. And what that's gonna that's going to kind of emphasize that red lion. We talked about how that could represent your Habsburgs, how that could represent vampirism. Your boars and salted pork are going to represent underground meat markets. Um, so, whether they're whether they're just having a market where it's being sold there underground, um, it could be both. Um, you know, when we see a crest that's completely split into four parts like this one, it's not by accident. That's in the image of the old forts. So we'll have to look and see if there are old forts in the area. Um, and with that, those forts are often built in the formation of star forts, and you would see the underground market split into four parts where they would have weaponry in one part, they would have, products in another, and then, they'd have their human aspects, they'd have different magical things. Um, so, that area could be both manufacturing human meat as well as marketing, selling it on a black market. Um, the as we get to the bottom of that, when you see a single tree, um, usually you'll see it as a pine tree. That will connect back to your Order of the Foresters. When you see another tree, uh, usually it's going to be more like your oak tree. They, but they changed it for a reason in this, so it's meant to represent your oak tree, but what it's going to tell us in this is that you have the foresters, but also that you have druids who are being raised in the area, and they're going to specialize. What do druids specialize in? They specialize in making tinctures. The oak tree is usually their image because that's going to represent your tree of or your tinctures of life, your tinctures of white gold that they make, and they make that from things that, special things that they get from the oak tree. Um, Now, in Africa, you're going to have different trees that are highly specialized and different ingredients tinctures. So that's why we see the image change to something that's more in that culture. Um, it's common in areas where they have high druidism for them to have underground uh, orchards or groves. So this is also telling us that there is an underground grove where, druids can get their supplies for their special tinctures. Um, you've got the Oak Ridge, Tennessee area is another one. You've got a massive underground grove under there. Um, the car that's at the bottom there, that represents certain brotherhood orders. That's going to get into your brotherhood railmen, your trainmen, your automotive um, orders, and we're gonna get into a little bit of their signs and their symbols. So go ahead to the next one. So your brotherhood of railmen, train, and automobile and transportation orders, there are so many of these. Um, you'll continue to see more and more pop up, but there's like 50 different orders all connected to these. As we look into some of their ancient symbols, you see some of those on the right and on the left there. Um, you see that there usually is a connection to the locomotive, to the firemen, you know, connections to your community support services. Um, like every brotherhood group, they're going to have their different symbols. We've talked about, I've done a special report on the trains, and I encourage people to go to my website, thekingdomlivingwithjessie.com. Under the unveiling of the system, I have that special report on trains where you see more of some of their operations. But you see that some of the symbols they're going to use are trains, some include train bridges. We also see, the Sons of Liberty, which is part of your Sovereign Military Knights groups, shield on the left there. So, you're going to get a lot of your Knights of the Sons of Liberty that will be hidden within these automotive and locomotive and railmen and train groups. Um, we also see on the left there, or I'm sorry, the right, we see the like almost like the old lanterns. So that is a symbol that can be used where they'll show the old lanterns. You also would see like down on the bottom under the lantern, they have the image hidden. It looks like you've got all these men kind of standing or sitting on two separate sides and like a lodge, and you have the lodge part in the middle there, but then you see kind of a structure going down where it says our brotherhood. But within that imagery, the flooring, you see a hidden T, which that T is often what you'll see in the crest or in their symbols, they'll just show a T. And what that goes to, what levels they have to be in masonry. Um, they have to be level 24 or degree 24, which is going to be your Order of the Brazen Serpent. Um, that T is going to be directly connected to that. That T symbolizing, like we talked about it in our Epstein series, how the buildings on Epstein Island were put in that shape of the T. That's going to go back to Herod's temple, that as well as King Solomon's temple, where you see that T shape in the layout of the temple. And, you know, they're going to see that also, that T shape, as the cross that was raised up, and you have the serpent on that cross uh, that they worship, which is Nehushtan. So that hidden T symbol represents that cross with the snake, Nehushtan, on it, but also tells them that, hey, if you want to enter, this circle group, some of the requirements are that you at least have to be degree, 24 in your brotherhood degree. So, um, they won't be able to enter this until they've achieved those degrees and they have that understanding as well as those contracts with Nehushtan already in place. So these are going to be your big brotherhood groups and sovereign military that are operating um, in that Karoo area. And as we get further, we're going to see more. So if we know these are brotherhood groups, right? We know they're connected to the automotive, the locomotive. We know they're connected to the railways, the transportation. That's where we want to look. What railroads are in operation in the area? What locomotive groups? What are they doing in regards to transportation? Um, So that's where we're going to look. So go ahead to the next one. We're going to start with some of their symbols that we see. So, as we look further, we see all the way on the right there, the Brotherhood of the Railroad and Trainmen. You see kind of what looks like a circle with all these lines, coming out like a spoke, a wheel spoke. Where does that image come from? You know, this isn't the only place we're going to see it. Um, we see those spokes. Sometimes we'll see that circle with gears, but that's going to go back to your Rotarians. Um, Deeper, that's going to go back to your giant wheels, and that's going to connect to your operations of spiritual gates on one level. Some of the other places we're going to see that imagery, the overall golden circle imagery, will be connected to your order of the golden circle. And you could get, a connection to lawyers. Your golden circle usually will be connected to the judicial systems. Also, they could be the legislative uh, branches, the executive branches of government. So you're going to see them, operating in local governments, overseeing, those who have authority to make laws, make ways, as well as what we'll eventually find out, those who are overseeing the governance of the land and what's put on the land and what's operating on the land. So that's where it's going to get into with your locomotives. We see some of their coloring. You see the red, the white, the green, and you have the gold in the background. So when we look at the Karoo area, it makes sense that they're choosing to have a lot of the colors in connection to the schools or other things be the gold and the green, because that's going to go back to their brotherhood colors and representing certain things for them. In the middle, you see different equipment that's going to be connected to fixing up locomotives, which means, there's going to be a lot of in that training. They're going to get into, some people may get into the mechanics of the locomotives or the automobiles. They may be raising up a lot of people who are going to work, in the different aspects of those fields. For the trainmen, we see right in the middle there, one of their other symbols can be that capstone, and you get just kind of your weird shaped letters, RR for Railmen. You have a hidden P in there, which also goes back to, you see that same symbology of that P and the R's in your sovereign military with your Kairos symbol. So that's going to get into some of their worship of certain entities and maybe where they're connected. They may also be connected to the Jesuit Catholic churches with the Kairos symbols. Um, but you have a certain spirit as well that's going to be connected to that they're going to worship. And that capstone imagery, we know that that is the symbol, like when you look at the different symbols connected to degrees, that's going to be connected to your fourth degree. So that in order to become part of the men, you have to at least be a fourth degree or starting your 15 degrees of illumination, a master mason, to enter that order. We also see the horse in some of their symbology. That is going to, again, that's one of the symbols for your um, foresters. It also can be for your order of red men. Like in some of our city sigils, you see the Native American riding the horse. That will represent your order of the red men. It can also tell you that, that's connected to the Western cherubic signs for filing. Your horse will be considered along with the ox on the west. Um, but we see a lot of different symbols, and um, all of that's important to recognize because you'll see those groups working in operation throughout the area, displaying different signs or symbols. Go ahead to the next one. So, as we look at, big things here in that area, I want to highlight Route 66 because, last time we covered how you had the Clintons kind of getting their foot in the door. One of the biggest things that they were promoting were these green scenic routes, this garden route, and that runs right along this Route 62. And as we look further, this is going to be important because, they're creating a route, something that's meant for, they're promoting it for tourism. They want to attract a lot of people. Why? Why do they want to attract a lot of people? It's because they want to um, have a reason to explain why there's mass amounts of people or why are there mass amounts of children in those areas that may or may not be seen. Um, they want that flow of energy. They want to, um, so they're going to do multiple things. They want to kind of begin to create covers for that area to explain why there's so many people there. That's going to also be used to cover up some of the trafficking that may happen above ground, but also, they'll be sucking energy, funneling energy. One of the things I want to point out is right in the middle, kind of to the um, left of the dolphins, you see a lighthouse there. Uh, right above that lighthouse, there's an ostrich, uh, and you have the city of Outshorn. That area, you have the Congo caves, and this is going to get into some of their underground area and what are they doing under there. So I'll pause here for a second if you want to quick say something. Um,
Well, right now I'm very annoyed because, yeah, it makes perfect sense what you're saying. And if we go back to the other one with the stag standing, just trying to see with the two stags standing up, that's the
uh-huh.
springbok. The one is the springbok, and the one is the
Yep.
gamsbok, which are definitely two. I mean, the gamsbok is the most beautiful animal. It really, really is. So is the springbok. We have them in abundance. They horrifically hunted. That's the irony, is that that's
Mm-hmm.
the animal that everyone hunts. The springbok and the gamsbok and the kudu. And there's every buck gets hunted. Okay, but definitely the springbok would be the main one, and the gamsbok as well, which I find ironic.
Yeah, and could that be
We
significant? Is that part of the games or the training with kids at the schools? Are those, is that why they classify them as springboks? Does that get into
mhm.
the human hunts, you know?
Well, it's interesting what you're saying because also the conversations and the shows that I've been doing with Beverly Rhodes, we were obviously speaking about this because she was trafficked through these areas
Hmm.
and knows a lot of I mean, has had personal experience about that as well. So you talk about underground meat markets and stuff like that. I'm assuming we're not talking normal. beef or lamb, right? Or pork.
Correct.
We
Yeah,
we're talking probably human meat as well,
right.
or any
Boars
type of
and-
really. Sorry.
The boars and the wild hogs being that image, approved image that they use for human meat.
And there's a lot of boars in that area as well. There's a lot of they also hunted relentlessly. Boars,
Yeah,
interesting. They're so cute because whenever they run, their little tails go up in the air like aerials. So we
yeah.
love actually seeing them.
And that can be
Um,
a signifier too, where, you'll see them put it became kind of an approved way to get away with advertising their hunts, where they'll say, "Oh, we've got an influx of wild boars," um, and you'll see like through the DNRs and the hunting, um, you know, permit, those who are overseeing the hunting on the land, they'll put out, you know, that people can participate in the wild boar hunts. So that became a way that they would advertise publicly, that human hunting parties were coming up, and they used that as you know, a, a cover.
it would not surprise me at all because I think also with what you're saying, yeah, what's being decoded in the coat of arms, as well as what we've heard from Beverly, that is a main area for human hunting.
Right.
And I've no doubt, honestly, what I was saying last week, when I was there in August, 2.5 years ago now, where we're 25, 2 years ago, um, one of my schoolmates was not allowed to go. He wasn't given entrance onto his old farm, which had been bought by the Rothschilds, and was told there was
Mhm.
kids there. That was the weekend. Everyone was not on the farms. We were all at inter schools in town. So that to me, and it was the 4th of August. So the date, the timing, everything just correlates. And I have no doubt that Rupert is engaged. He has bought up that entire area. It's where you talk about the starports and things. Well, the Owl House is there. And that's where, and that's it's about maybe 40 minutes drive from Crawfordnet.
Mhm.
And that's where there's a lot of alien activity that is seen. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Owl House, and there's very interesting um, rock formations, cave formations, as I'm
Mhm.
saying. That's also where you're
We're gonna
finding
get
the
into some
ancient.
of all of that.
Amazing, because it's crazy when you're looking at the area he's buying up. That's the area he's looking at. Anyway, Route 62 is right here where I am as well. It's a beautiful scenic route that you drive past, so it's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you have
One,
you've got the vineyards, you've got the ostrich farms, you have natural features, you have the Congo caves, in the Ouchhorn area. Um,
yeah,
you know,
that's down the
uh,
road from me. It's less than an hour's drive. The Kango Caves,
right?
ostrich
And
farms.
one of the things too, is as we look at this, we know that your caves are going to be connected to your mining areas, and you have historical diamond mines, um, throughout different areas, but you get other things like, when we start to look at the mines in South Africa on the right there, um, you know, d- we see that bottom area where you've got the Route 66. We see to the right, you've got a big mines there. You see a couple littler mines. Um, and then going up, you see a couple, the three other larger mines, not, all kind of situated in that south area there. Mines that are high in manganese. You also have the Middle Plates mined. So manganese mines, the Middle Plates mined, and emerald mines that are in that area. Let's go ahead to the next one. So, you know, it's important to understand who oversees the caves, who's looking, who's overseeing the mines, where's their funding coming from, who owns those. Um, one of those biggest cave areas that we talked about on that Route 66 is going to be your Congo cave system. And this system is massive. You have like that Route 66, um, you know, going along that, but I put up some old maps that I could find. Like you'd see kind of it it traveling almost right along your Route 66. But look at
It's
some
Route
of the different
62.
Oh, sorry,
Just to
yeah, Route
correct you, Route
62. Sorry.
62.
Route
No worries.
62. Um, but it spreads up into those other mine areas. But look at the different layouts of this cave system. You have it running massive underground of caverns running along, you know, where that Route 62 is. Then you have it extending up where we saw those other mine areas. Um, really it's massive. And the Congo Caves sits on a bedrock of uranium, which is important because uranium is one of the primary resources for the nuclear energy. Um, your caves are places the system uses to create nitrate, which is used to procure meats. Like, when they do the what they call salted pork. We saw this also in the cavern structures in the Austin, Minnesota Decode. And then we see the boars in the South Africa coat of arms. So, this cave system is going to be essential for what they're doing with the human meat, which means, it's not just that they're selling, if you're seeing they create the nitrates in the caves. They'll have the kids go down. They're going to practice using energy, like creating lightning bolts. That energized environment, then there's different things that they'll do that the byproduct is going to leave you with pools that are dripping down, full of nitrates that they'll collect for the creation of the product. So, that's not the only reason they've got it, but that's a big part of it and important to understand. So go ahead, let's look deeper. We want to see, because who's all involved with these cave systems? Um, these are owned and operated by the town council and by the Cobot Trust. So Outshorn Municipality and town council are who oversee that cave system. And we see, they've got a crest there that they're associated with. We're not going to break that down today, but this is kind of who's behind the scene. And um, your municipality and town council, you know, and so we have to ask, like, who and how far, are they connected? Because we know that it's not just, the connection with what's happening. It's not just the caves, it's not just the tourism through the caves. There's more going on there. So this warrants deeper looks. Who's sitting on these councils? Who's sitting in this municipality? What is their connection to other people in the area? that we know are part of the Brotherhood system. You know, are they connected to any orders? We see, you know, these guys wearing emblems that, you know, the gold emblems, that's something that we see, you know, with different Brotherhood orders. They have, you know, their badges, their emblems, and those signify what groups in the Brotherhood they're connected to. Um, so, you know, as we look further, all of that's going to start to really get into it. Let's look at the next one here. We'll keep going. Um, go ahead to the next picture. Um, oh, go ahead, I guess, to the coat of arms quick. We will look at that. Um, so when we look further, you know, we see your coat of arms, you see you know, kind of like the wings. It's interesting you talked about the owl house because at the very top, you know, you have wings there. Could those be specifically, you know, those wings in a O? Could it be specifically telling us that that's one of the entrances that owl house is connected to your underground? Because right underneath it, you have the sovereign military knighthead and you have the top of a castle, which can represent that there's underground. So that very well may be an entrance point, and we're seeing all this stuff with feathers in this. We also see the griffins. Um, you know, so I think it very well could mean that there's a connection, you know, with your underground, both in Outshorn as well as to the owl house there.
Yeah, the
You know,
Owl
you're
House and Oakthorn are, sorry, they probably about
nope,
2 hours, 2.5 hours drive apart, I would imagine. So actually maybe three. It's not a
that's
very
a
far
vast,
driving distance.
yeah,
Mm,
vast underground, huh?
yeah. But the Karoo is huge. It's semi-desert. And you know, when you travel, you'll travel to some places and you can see that in ancient times, that whole area was water because there'll be like, especially if you're traveling like from the Karoo to Cape Town and past an area called Lanesburg, you can see the water marks on the rocks where the water used to be. It was massive, massive, massive. And it's known that this area yonks ago was underwater. And now it's become desert or semi-desert, which is very
Well,
interesting. So they, I'm
yeah.
sure, and it's huge. I mean, it's vast, and it's like the Australian outback in many ways.
Mhm.
So there's miles of underground nothingness and miles of above ground where no one even goes. So
Yeah,
crazy.
and yet we see the layers. It's interesting because in this one you see at the top of the crust the castle, and why they're showing it that way is because they're telling you that there's layers in the underground. Um,
Yeah.
you know, that
Mm.
castle separated from a whole nother underground layer. And, you know, you kind of get with those chevrons two things. You get your basic, you know, symbol of the chevron or the, you know, the lines like that, which can represent water, water magic. Um, but that also can represent things that are below the aquifer. Um, you know, and will connect to your high priestesses because look at how they've got those two feathers on the side, almost like a whole nother doorway where you see that castle
Yeah.
being the top part and you got a whole nother doorway. So they've got some massive things underground. Griffins were often put at doorways or entrances as guardians. So you have a ancient underground access point there. My guess is it looks exactly like that, where you've got pillars and the griffin stationed there. And then notice they're sitting on a shield or that Eye of Horus on the bottom, telling you that there is a gate down below to the lower abysses that they're guarding. The chevrons also can be used to represent, breeding or breeder programs and sex magic. So down deep, down below is where they're doing that. And you get scary stuff down there because, why they drew the griffins in that formation. That goes back to a whole nother creature, and I'm forgetting the exact name of it, but it gets into your ancient Mesopotamian religions, and it starts with a L. It's like a lamb something. Let me see if I can quick pull it up here because I always forget
Very,
how to
very
spell it. But
interesting that Oatzorn had a military base. I don't know if it still has it, but in the heyday of our military, Oatzorn was a big military base as well, which is interesting. And obviously, lots of the Kango caves in the Oatzorn area, as well as all the ostrich farms, are in that area as well. And then the military base that was there. I actually don't know if it's still there. With this current crowd that's taken over, anything is possible. But Oatzorn was a
right.
well known, and it was 32 Battalion, Oatzorn, which is foreign military base. Wow, the foreign military base, which was known at the time, and I actually forgot about that. It's just coming to me now as I'm speaking. Is known as
Mm-hmm.
32 Battalion, and that was, I don't know if it was their only main base, but I know Oatzorn was very much where 32 Battalion was stationed. So
Mm-hmm.
all the foreign guys that joined the army would have gone to Oatzorn.
Yeah. But in that too, like that Eye of Horus goes back to your sigil of Lilith, which gets to the altars where Lilith is worshipped, and you have Lilith being one of your queens of hell. So it's common for, her altars to be placed in the lower areas near abysses. And you have different connections to this. So, where else do we see that Eye of Horus? You get it in one of the UN uh, buildings. They've got a huge mural with that Eye of Horus. So a connection also with your UN to the use of that area. Um, you get massive underground submarine bases connected to some of those abysses. There's also a direct connect with that, to the Assyrian areas, so connecting to Iraq. And it was the Lamassu. That's the creature where it has the lion body, the wings. Um, so the griffin is kind of a newer way. Your Lamassu would have a human head. Um, but like when you see that Eye of Horus, that's going to tell you beyond the griffins, you get that connection with the ancient Mesopotamia, Iraq areas, and the Lamassus. Um, all of it being underground military bases and areas of the sacred worship for them, um, in different access points from the gate. Now, you could even have, with all of that, and you see the black and white, the chevrons in black and white. So it could represent the breeding programs, but may also represent direct connection. We see that same symbology in your General Council of the UN crest or emblem. And, we know there's a direct connect there, but also, with your pineapples under the sea, like Epstein Island, you saw the blue and white, but we trace that back to your bathhouses in Aleppo, Syria. You have that same, beyond just the blue and white there, you see the black and white imagery. So it could also connect directly, that gate connect to the Aleppo, Assyria area as well. Or Syria, sorry. Yeah, so let me ask, I want to be mindful of time here, Shanti. Do we want to keep going?
Yeah.
We've got a little bit more, or do we want to maybe continue this in the second episode today?
I think if we can continue this in the second episode, that would be great. And then we move on
Okay.
to, there's 4 more picks. And then we can move on to the next the Q&A as well, because I think
Okay.
it's super interesting.
So we'll start off here in the next one. That would be great. But yeah, there's so much to it,
Perfect.
it really is in depth,
It's so, and when you're talking about the breeding programs, it's exactly what Beverly has said to us. The Khoisan breeding programs happen underground there, and these are the kids with the golden eyes or the lion eyes that have got a high. I mean, they're First Nation kids, so they've got a very high price on their head, and they are trafficked through there, for sure.
Yeah.
Horrific. Right here under my nose. Right here under my nose. Right here.
And it's deep.
Anyway, yes.
Yeah, it's
thank you.
There's deep underground there as we see, so
Yeah, absolutely, most definitely. But we look forward to continuing this discussion just now as well, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the awareness. We thank you for the knowledge. We thank you for the understanding in all of this. And Lord, we ask that you would just hew up all of the enemy's secret and hidden places. We thank you that all things shall be laid naked and bare before the eyes of men. We thank you, Lord, that there comes a point where you say enough evil's heaped up, and you've said that in your word that the earth shall spew it out. We ask that indeed it shall be spewed and vomited out, and that we would see all that is going on under there. We ask these things in your powerful name, Jesus. Amen.
Jessie. Thank you, everybody. Wow, I really enjoy going into this because it's very close to home.
Yeah.
And when I haven't been. No, okay, we'll carry on at the next show. Cool, guys. God bless you all. We'll see you in about 35 minutes from now for just the completion of this show as well as a Q&A. Cool. Thank you, Jess. Thanks, everybody. God bless you all. And until then.